Hey, this is Garrett, and I wanted to give you a quick guitar tip today. I've had a lot of requests for these. My guitar tip today is going to be on what's the easiest way to get into improvising and sounding good. A lot of people have trouble with trying to figure out how to make the notes they hit sound good when they're first starting to learn. A lot of people teach them scales, and they learn these scales out of books like blues scales, two-fingered ones, pentatonic scales, major and minor scales. But the most important thing you really want to look at first, believe it or not, are the chords. The chord changes of the song that you're trying to learn really have the best things that you need to use to line the notes up to make them sound good. What do I mean by that? Well, let's take a simple 3-chord song. Let's say we've got a song that's got an A chord. We're going to use an A chord at the 5th fret. If you're not sure what that is, there's plenty of information on YouTube about that. It's a bar chord, but it's A. And then for the D chord, right there at the 5th fret also. And then for the E chord, you just go up 2 more frets. There's your E chord. You can also play it like that too. I just use this 3rd finger laying down. They're bar chords. I mean, bar chords are just simply like if you take an E chord, open E chord, you move your 1st finger up, lay it over the 5th fret, put that E chord behind that. That's how you get your A chord. This D chord would be like if you're playing the A chord down here open, and you move it up here, it's like that A chord behind that bar right there at the 5th fret. Then at the 7th fret would be the E chord. And the first thing you want to do, let's say you've got this slow blues song that's got an A chord, a D chord, and an E chord. The easiest thing to do first is try to group those chords together in the same spot on the neck. And you know, you could play the A chord here, you could play D up here, E down here, but you're moving them way apart. If you put the A chord here, the D chord here, E chord, and A chord, you've got them all right in this range here. And you know, the first go-to scale that most people are going to play is. Well, how do you make something like that in the music? I mean, how do you take notes and make them sound good in relation to the chords without hitting wrong notes? A lot of people say, I've got trouble hitting wrong notes. Well, look at your chord shapes. Chord shapes are the whole key to finding where your good notes are. When you're playing an A chord, these notes that are in that A chord, if you hit the notes, the single notes that are in that chord shape, those are your good notes. Those are the notes that are always going to sound good when you're playing that A chord. Now when it goes to the D chord, there's different notes. And when it goes up to the E chord, listen to those single notes. See, the notes change each time the chord shape changes. Each time the chord changes, the notes change. And that's important because when you're playing a lead solo, you need to be aware of what chord is playing at the time that you're playing your notes. And one of the first things you can do that's really easy is when you play a chord, just grab one of the notes out of the chord and use that to kind of make a little bit of a solo. And you don't even need to know what the names of the notes are. Just let's say for the A chord, the highest note is this A up here. So when you play that A chord, like in a blues thing, you hear how that note fits? It's because it's in that chord. That's never going to be a bad note. And you hear people talk about, you know, B.B. King and Carlos Santana, you know, the way they can make solos just out of 1 note or 2 notes or 3 notes sound so good. Well, that's how you start. You got to have that one good note. That's never going to be a wrong note when you're playing that chord. Same thing when it goes to the D. Well, that's the highest note that fits on that D. Then when you go to the E, that's just one of the notes out of that E. Back to the A. back to the E. A lot of people do rhythm like that. The D chord. Hear how those notes fit the chord. Well, they fit the chord because I'm just grabbing notes that are out of the chord. Instead of worrying about, you know, hitting a whole bunch of notes, it's not going to sound good until you understand that as you're making your ideas, as you're creating your licks, your lines, your riffs, whatever you want to call them, they need to line up to the chord shapes. And you can do this anywhere on the neck. Let's say you wanted to go down here and play them open. There's a note in that chord, that's the A chord down here, and it goes to the D, it goes to the E, hear how those single notes sound good? Well, I'm just grabbing notes out of the chord only. I'm not using any other notes, and starting out, that's a really great way to start making solos sound good. So try that, and then later on I'll put out another video that talks about adding in the other notes. But when you're first starting out, like I said, you don't even need to know what those names of the notes are at first. Just as long as you can find the chord shape, you can look at the shape and any of the notes in that shape. Will sound good in those chords. I hope that helps. If you have any questions about that, let me know. And like I said, I'll get into this further, but that should help get you started. Anywhere on the neck where you can find a chord shape, find out what the chords are in your songs. Make sure you know the chords. Make sure you learn chord shapes, different inversions. That's where that comes in handy. Another tip is, how do you not get lost on the neck? Well, if you know an A here, an A here, an A here, an A here, or a D here, D, 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 E, anywhere you can play an E chord. That's how lead guitar players keep from getting lost, is because they know they can go to those notes and it's always going to sound good when those chords are playing. So remember, the notes that are in the chords themselves are always going to sound good when played during those chords. So they're like target notes, chord notes. Alright, look into that further. There's plenty of other information about that on YouTube, and if you like this lesson, make sure you go over and check out my other sites that I have. I've got music on Facebook. Look up Andy Garrett. Look up the band I'm in called Horizon, and there's plenty of stuff on iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, Reverb Nation. But I appreciate your support here on YouTube, and let me know what you think. Easy guitar tip number 1.